Have you ever noticed something unsettling about narcissists? In the beginning, they appear larger than life, confident, charismatic, completely in control. They walk into a room as if the spotlight belongs to them. But something fascinating happens the moment their expectations stop being met. The moment someone stops reacting, stops defending, or simply stops feeding their need for attention, the mask begins to crack. Suddenly, the confidence turns into irritation. The charm becomes defensiveness, sometimes even desperation. Why does this happen? Because narcissists survive on something psychologists often describe as emotional supply: your attention, your reactions, your validation. When that supply disappears, the structure they rely on begins to collapse. In this video, we're diving into 5 powerful tactics narcissists absolutely hate. These aren't manipulative tricks. They're healthy psychological boundaries that quietly take back your power. And the final tactic? It's the one narcissists fear most because it completely destroys their ability to control the situation. Before we get into the tactics, there's something important you need to understand about narcissistic behavior. Narcissists don't function the same way emotionally healthy people do. Their confidence often looks strong on the surface, but underneath it's surprisingly fragile. What appears to be self-assurance is often a carefully maintained image that depends heavily on the reactions of others. In reality, narcissists rely on constant external validation to maintain their sense of importance. That's why they continuously chase praise, attention, admiration, and control. When people give them those things, they feel powerful, almost untouchable. But the moment those responses disappear, something shifts. The confidence fades, and insecurity begins to surface. That's when manipulation starts to appear. Gaslighting to make you doubt yourself. Guilt tripping to control your emotions. Silent treatment to punish you, or dramatic conflict to pull you back in. All of these behaviors serve the same goal: to keep you emotionally engaged in their game. The tactics you're about to learn don't fight the game. They remove it completely. The first tactic narcissists truly hate is emotional detachment. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions: anger, frustration, defensiveness, even visible sadness. Every strong response tells them the same thing: they still have influence over your emotions. In their mind, if they can trigger you, they still have control. But something powerful happens when that reaction disappears.
I have to
When
cut
someone
these free.
responds calmly,
One by
without
one, I'll
emotional
break free.
investment,
I won't let
the
go.
narcissist's strategy begins to fall apart. Their usual methods, provoking, criticizing, or pushing your buttons, suddenly stop producing the result they expect. Imagine someone trying to start an argument with you. They throw insults, make accusations, and attempt to pull you into a confrontation. But instead of reacting, you remain steady. Your tone stays neutral. Your answers are short, calm, and measured. No anger, no defensiveness, no emotional fuel. Psychologists often describe this as emotional starvation for narcissists. Without reactions to feed on, their manipulation loses power. Over time, this calm detachment becomes deeply frustrating for them because they can't control what they can't emotionally trigger. The second tactic narcissists hate is clear boundaries. Boundaries are powerful because they eliminate confusion. Narcissists thrive in situations where limits are vague or flexible. When rules aren't clearly defined, they begin to push little by little. They test your patience, challenge your limits, and slowly stretch the line further until they gain more control over the situation. But the moment someone sets a firm boundary, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, the manipulation has nowhere to go. Boundaries don't need to be loud or aggressive. In fact, the most powerful ones are calm, simple, and direct. I'm not comfortable with that. I won't accept being spoken to like that. I'm not discussing this anymore. Clear, respectful, final. Emotionally healthy people understand and respect boundaries, but narcissists often react very differently. They may become angry, sarcastic, or attempt to guilt you into changing your mind. Why? Because boundaries remove their leverage, and without control, the strategies they rely on begin to collapse. The third tactic narcissists hate is known as the gray rock method. The concept is surprisingly simple, but incredibly powerful. You intentionally make yourself emotionally uninteresting, like a plain gray rock. No dramatic reactions, no personal stories, no emotional energy for them to grab onto. Your responses become short, neutral, and predictable. Why does this work? Because narcissists thrive on emotional intensity. They enjoy creating tension, arguments, and drama because it keeps the attention centered on them. Conflict, excitement, and emotional reactions are the fuel that keeps their behavior going. But when someone suddenly becomes calm and emotionally neutral, that fuel disappears. Imagine trying to start a fire without oxygen. No matter how hard you try, nothing ignites. That's exactly what interacting with a gray rock feels like to a narcissist. Without emotional reactions to feed on, the interaction becomes boring and unproductive for them.
One by one,
Eventually, many narcissists lose interest and move on to someone who will respond emotionally. And that's precisely the goal, to quietly remove yourself from the drama. The fourth tactic narcissists hate is independent confidence. Narcissists naturally gravitate toward relationships where they feel superior and in control. They often choose people who constantly seek approval, avoid confrontation, or struggle with self-doubt. These dynamics make manipulation easier because the narcissist becomes the source of validation and authority, but everything changes when someone develops strong inner confidence. Confident individuals don't depend on others to define their value. They trust their own judgment and recognize when something feels manipulative or unhealthy. Instead of constantly seeking approval, they rely on their own sense of self-worth. This shift completely alters the power dynamic. A confident person questions manipulation instead of accepting it. They set limits, stand firm, and most importantly, they are willing to walk away from toxic behavior when necessary. That independence removes one of the narcissist's most powerful tools, psychological dependency. Once they realize they can't control your self-worth, their influence begins to weaken, and their usual tactics lose their power. The fifth tactic narcissists hate the most is strategic distance. Distance doesn't always mean cutting someone out of your life completely. Sometimes it simply means limiting how much access they have to you, your time, your energy, and your emotions. Instead of sharing everything, you become more selective. You offer less personal information, reduce availability, and stop investing deeply in their emotional drama. This shift is incredibly powerful. Narcissists rely heavily on constant access to maintain influence. The more present they are in your daily life, the easier it is for them to manipulate situations and control conversations. But when that access slowly decreases, their control begins to fade. That's why narcissists often react dramatically when they feel someone pulling away. They may suddenly shower you with attention, apologies, or unexpected kindness. This behavior, often called love bombing, is usually an attempt to pull you back in. Strategic distance gives you clarity and emotional protection. And without regular access to your life, a narcissist's power naturally weakens. Here's the truth. Many people don't realize about dealing with narcissists. The goal is not to defeat them. The goal is to stop playing their game altogether. Narcissistic behavior survives on three things: attention, reactions, and emotional energy. Every argument, every attempt to prove your point, every emotional response gives them something to work with. It keeps the cycle alive. But the moment those things disappear, something powerful happens. Their influence begins to fade. You stop trying to change them. You stop trying to win the argument. And instead, your focus shifts to something far more important: protecting your own peace and emotional well-being. Because real strength isn't about winning psychological battles with difficult people. Real strength is building a life where manipulation, control, and emotional games simply no longer have access to you. That's where true freedom begins. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Comment "I choose boundaries" below and share your experience. Have you ever used any of these 5 tactics in real life? Your story might help someone else recognize the patterns they've been struggling to understand.